have an alert and warning concerning the California fires. Super toxic smoke from the California fires could cause respiratory problems for millions of Americans, Michael Snyder reports. In modern times, we've never seen so many homes and businesses get burned up in a heavily populated metropolitan area in the United States. The fires in California have produced enormous amounts of smoke, and health officials are trying to alert the public to the potential dangers. More than 20 million people live in Southern California, but even those living hundreds of miles away could potentially develop serious respiratory problems as a result of breathing in the smoke. According to an assistant professor at University of Washington School of Environmental and Forest Sciences, wildfire smoke is super toxic to the lungs. The most dangerous component of wildfire smoke is fine particle pollution, also known as PM 2.5 or soot. These tiny particles, smaller than the 20th of the width of a human hair, can, if inhaled, become embedded in the bloodstream and lungs. It's estimated that about 1/3 of all particulate matter pollution in the United States comes from wildfire smoke. Wildfire smoke is super toxic to the lungs, more so than regular smoke because of the concentration of fine particulates, said Don McKenzie, an assistant professor at University of Washington School of Environmental and Forest Sciences. When very small particles from wildfire smoke get embedded in your lungs, it can cause respiratory distress and a whole host of other health issues. The cause for concern is the main component of smoke is particulate matter, and that can penetrate deep into the lungs, which directly causes respiratory issues. But it can also enter the bloodstream, where it can cause a range of other health issues, said Amy Kesley-Lamb, Director of Regional Asthma Management and Prevention. Wildfire smoke can be extremely harmful to the lungs of at-risk people, who include children whose lungs are still developing, pregnant women, older adults, those with asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, chronic heart disease, or diabetes, according to the American Lung Association. Exposure to air pollution like wildfire smoke can also lead to the onset of asthma in otherwise healthy people, Lamb said. What makes the current scenario that we're facing so much worse is that we are not just dealing with smoke from trees, plants, and grass that have been burned. Homes and businesses contain all sorts of highly toxic materials, and we're being told that those materials could have toxic effects on that we don't really know at this point. Joel Kaufman, professor of environmental health and medicine at University of Washington, explained why a wildfire in an urban location such as Los Angeles is particularly hard to predict in terms of air quality effects. What's a little bit different in this fire is that we don't really know the toxicity of the fire that includes so much in the way of buildings that have burned in anthropogenic materials. Kaufman said what's burning in the businesses and in all the houses are not the same things that would burn in a forest fire. Some of what's getting in the air can have toxic effects that we don't really know at this point. In particular, experts are sounding the alarm about all of the plastic and all the paint that has been burnt up and released into the air by these fires. Toxic chemicals from plastics, paint from the houses, and furniture are a few examples of what's being burned and is being released in the air, said Anthony Wexler, Director of Air Quality Research Center at UC Davis. Researchers are still working to understand the relative toxicity of these specific chemical pollutants during a fire event. And basically, we're facing a situation where giant mountains of toxic material have been burned up and are being breathed in by tens of millions of Americans. According to Google, more than 23 million people live in Southern California alone. Of course, you don't have to live in Southern California to be affected. When massive wildfires erupted in Canada in 2023, it resulted in a dramatic rise in emergency room visits in the Big Apple. In 2023, New York City saw a dramatic rise in emergency room visits, many related to asthma attacks, when smoke blew into the city from the Canadian wildfires. If you live in the states of Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas, you're potentially in danger, and I would encourage you to take precautions. We've never seen a fire disaster of this magnitude. AccuWeather is now projecting that the total economic damage from these fires will be somewhere between $250 billion and $275 billion, And as the damage increases, so does the price tag. A new estimate by weather data platform AccuWeather puts the total cost between $250 and $275 billion and calls the damage catastrophic. The full cost of the wildfires won't be clear until long after the smoke clears. An expensive rebuilding effort could take years. If this projection is accurate, these fires will surpass Hurricane Katrina and will be the costliest disaster in U.S. history by a wide margin. The primary reason why these fires are so costly is because property values in some of the areas that burned are extremely high. Part of the reason that the LA fires are so costly is because of the area's high property values. Schlegelmich said the severity impacted Pacific Palisades neighborhood, for example, is home to several celebrities and has an average home value of $3.5 billion. What makes all of this so tragic is that most of the homes that burned could have been saved. A former U.S. attorney named Michael Valentine says that he called the Palisades fire when it originally broke out, but it took almost 45 minutes for a helicopter to show up and dump water on it. Valentine, who said he lives on top of the Palisades, Pacific Palisades, next to the ridge line where the fire broke out, described seeing the initial plume of smoke grow rapidly in size last Tuesday. The former federal attorney said his wife called 911, but it took nearly 45 minutes for a helicopter to respond and dump water on the fire. Valentine said, "I have no idea why that is." He responded to why it took so long to respond. He said it could have been confined. It would not have touched any of the houses if it was. You're talking to somebody that's been up in this community for 40 years, and I've seen fires. I've seen fires during those 40 years, and there's always been a good response. I don't know what happened this time, he said. By the time the first helicopter showed up, it was too late. The fire had already become well established, and high winds were spreading it rapidly. And now we have an unprecedented disaster on our hands. Millions upon millions of people are breathing in the smoke that has been produced by these fires, and the health impact of all that smoke will be felt for years to come. This is on End of the American Dream by Michael Snyder. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. This is by Michael Snyder and about the author. Michael Snyder's new book entitled Why is available on paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 8 other books that are available on Amazon, including Chaos, End Times, 70 Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work that he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News, and he's always freely and happily allowed others to republish those articles on their own websites. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.